Welcome to Don't Panic Geocacher, a channel devoted to helping you solve mystery geocaches by yourself. My name is Arjen, and I go by the GeoNick as one of five on the geocaching.com website. Geocaching, of course, is a sport where you go outside, find caches, and some of them are mystery caches where you don't know the coordinates. And I'm helping you try to solve more of those mystery coordinates, help you find some of those caches. So this is step 8 of a series of 10. That series of 10 is really intended to give you a structural approach, not just to give you ideas about caching and how to do it, more or less guide you step by step. Follow these steps, you can solve a lot more mystery caches. Now, what does Don't Give Up mean? The title of this video. Well, if you listen to the number 8 in this series, you already kind of know what it means, right? You're not giving up on learning more, educating yourself, finding more caches. So that's a good sign. And this is all about that as well. How the attitude of not giving up can help you solve mystery caches, especially the more difficult ones. So this video is all about that, and I can show you how not giving up can actually help you. And as always, I will solve some caches. I will have made up some caches. I've used some real caches that I've placed and published myself. Kind of show you how that will help. So like everything in life, right? Not giving up is a good thing. Practice makes you better, experience helps. And with geocaching, and especially with mystery caches, that's absolutely true. Because if you know a little bit, you can solve some caches. But as you're solving them, you'll see more hints, you will see more ideas, you learn more techniques. And those techniques will help you solve more caches. So it becomes this circle. The more you solve, the more you learn, the more you learn, the more you solve. And that goes on, right? So I really encourage everybody to just practice, try to solve as many as you can, because every one that you solve teaches you something new, will help you solve more that you haven't maybe been able to solve before. It's the learning curve, right? So there's also a song about it, so you might know which song I'm referencing. But the more you solve, the more I learn, the more I learn, the more I solve. So and that is absolutely true, because no matter how much anybody tells you, no matter how much you practice, tough puzzles still take time to solve. So that's also why you shouldn't give up. It's not just that you have to teach yourself and go through the moment, but even when you look at the best puzzlers, they will look at a puzzle and it's like, I have no idea. It takes this aha moment, right? And so that means that sometimes you just have to put it to rest. And that doesn't mean giving up on it. It just means I'm stopping looking at this today. Maybe tomorrow it will be better. Maybe tomorrow I've learned a new trick. Maybe next week I've learned a new trick, technique. So my recommendation is to make like a bookmark list of puzzles you would like to solve and revisit them time to time. So as you learn more, you may see a solution you didn't know before because you learned something else. Don't fixate on the single puzzle. See all the puzzles that are out there with geocaching as kind of like a tool to solve the puzzle you really want. Because as you learn more, you get to know more. As you get to know more, you get to solve. You get to solve more, you get to find more, and so on. Right? So yeah, make like a bookmark list and revisit old puzzles, because you will be surprised that if you do puzzles for a while, do mystery caches for a while, how much you've learned of techniques, new ideas, and suddenly puzzles that look extremely difficult a month later suddenly look super simple to solve. Don't give up on a puzzle when you don't know how to solve it today. Tomorrow is another day, next month is another day, and may help you. But remember which ones you're trying to solve, right? Keep notes, keep records, keep a bookmark list. It will help you. Also, especially when you're looking at more difficult caches, they can be tricky, right? So if you look at a cache that has 3 stars or maybe above, they often have twists in it, meaning that you do something great. You think like, I've solved this puzzle. And then you're working on it and it's like, I don't see a coordinate here. I don't see an answer here, but I think I'm on the right track. Don't give up. The puzzle might be there, the coordinates might be there. Sometimes you look at a cache page and it's like, I don't see a puzzle. The puzzle is somewhere because people are supposed to find it, right? That's the cache owner's job. help people find that cache. That's what they wanted you to do in most cases. But also the coordinates might not be straightforward. They might want you to go through certain steps to find the coordinates. So even though you don't see a solution appear right away, doesn't mean the solution isn't there. It just means you have to look slightly deeper into the puzzle. So let's look at those two alternatives, right? On one case, the puzzle might be obfuscated. Obfuscated just means it's hidden deeper than you think. So what I recommend doing is kind of like simplify the cache page. Try to figure out what could be part of the puzzle, what is not part of the puzzle. Realistically, anything could be part of the puzzle. The GC code, the cache owner's name, anything on the page that you see might be the puzzle. So if you don't see the puzzle, you can't rule anything out, but you kind of have to look at what are my suspects here? What looks out of the norm? What looks different than other cache pages? Did the cache owner slightly change their name? Does the title look weird? Do the coordinates look weird? Anything that's slightly out of the ordinary may give you a hint of how to solve it. At the end, the puzzle will be there somewhere. But the more you can exclude, the closer you will be to finding the puzzle. And of course, once you're working on the puzzle, you need to find the answer. Especially for caches that are difficulty 3 or above, it won't be a one-step puzzle. There might be multiple steps involved in solving it. So what you need to do is just solve it step by step. Don't give up when you see something that doesn't look right. It just means that it might just be the next step in the puzzle. So the puzzle might be surrounded by garbage. It might be that there's literally initially nothing good in front of it, and suddenly coordinates may start to appear. Pretty common. Or it might be that you have to do another step. And this is where those usual suspects come in. I have a video about the usual suspects. But those are things like reversing the text, rotating in the alphabet, Morse code, Braille, counting something, or any type of, like, if it's numbers, any type of base conversion. Right? We live in a base 10 world. Binary, octal, hexadecimal, any other thing may happen. Especially as a second step or a third step, or sometimes as a first step. These are very common things you see. Just the fact that something doesn't look like an answer, doesn't look like a keyword, doesn't mean that you're doing a thing. And so you shouldn't necessarily give up, even if the answer doesn't look right. It just may mean you have to do another step. And so this is a key thing when caches. So we're going to look at some examples. I have a couple of fun puzzles, both published and unpublished, worked out where we can look at how they are solved, and we'll show you some techniques, but also some things that will frequently happen with mystery caches. So let's take a look at one of the puzzles that obfuscate kind of where the puzzle is, called Tribute. It's one of my own puzzles here. And if you look at the cache page, then you see a bunch of information that potentially could be the puzzle. You see a background picture. There's some bookmark lists. Bookmark list is the puzzle. We see a lot of text, in this case just describing some favorite caches. And we see some numbers here, but the numbers are very, right? So only 1 to 9, looks like the number 2 is repeated. So we have 10 numbers. Nothing really here that could make it into a geocache puzzle, despite having these. This more looks like we have to numbers in order. It actually tells you as such. So we have to still find where the actual puzzle is on this page. Now, in this case, there is some help. You saw already there was a couple of hints. And so let's take a look at those hints. Well, unfortunately, when we encrypt it, it says they're still encoded. So we have to kind of use a rotation cipher to decode them. So use the blob here. It's just a quick tool to decode into many, since they mentioned that there were different decoding. This rotates it in every form. So here we can now read them again. So we read them in numbers. And then we say, okay, the first hit is 1 to 66. Okay, something that goes to 66, not something that one might know. Google may help. Okay, so I could Google some things if I knew what to Google for. See the title. Okay, attribute, geocaching related. Some of you may now already know this, right? Attribute geocaching. What could it be? Something on HTML, so something to do with the cache page itself. Contact the cache owner. Well, that's always a good idea. And then finally, it has here a GC code. So let's see if we can open that cache page, see what that is. So if I open this cache page right here, then we see something called attributes. Cache page was attributes. So this suggests that there's attributes related, and here we find a very useful list, and actually there's some numbers associated. Numbers were not made up by this cache page. Let's close this one. If I do a Google search, then it's actually pretty easy to find a list of numbers related to the attributes, and here you see that same list we saw before. So you see that all the geocaching attributes actually have a number, fixed number associated. But you could also find those numbers, for example, if you go back to the cache page. If you download the GPX file, it would have those same numbers in there. If you open that, that's just a regular text file. Find the numbers as well. So obviously, the attributes on the cache page somehow are going to give us the coordinates. So let's take a look at that. But before I do that, let's take that little order. Let's save those because it told me those numbers are going to be important. So we're going to keep those and we're going to look at the attributes. We're keeping our list of attributes available, and we'll use a little notepad to help us pick the order. So that was the order that we had to keep. And now we're going to look. First one is no scenic view. So here's scenic, that's number 8. First one is 8. Then let's go to the next one, number 2. It takes less than an hour, so that's number 7. 3, parking nearby. So let's see, parking nearby. There we go, number 25. And so number 4 is not a significant hike. So it's number 9. Number 5 is the motorcycles one, so that's 33. And number 6 is a boat. Let's see, boat is number 4. So we see boat right here, 4. Scuba gear, 5. So 7 is 5. 8, not a difficult climb. 8, difficulty climbing, that's a 10. The last one, dangerous animals, so it's number 18. So number 9 is 18. So even if we hadn't found this, the fact that this one went to 9 and that we were looking for something on the cache page, the fact that there were 9 attributes could have been somewhat of a hint. So we don't need this anymore, so we can kind of close this. We're looking for something in the 33 range right here, and we've received this order, right? So, but you see that even though the puzzle wasn't readily available, there were hints in this case on the site, quite a few hints. But the title as well, and I mentioned order here, all hints that we that's 9, that the attributes may actually be the actual puzzle in combination with this order. So even though we didn't see something to solve, there was still enough there to help you forward. Let's do a little bit more of a step. So let's see, we start with number 5, so that's 33. That works out well. So we're looking for 33. Next one is number 7. So that is a 5. Next one is number 8. So that's 10. So 1, 0. Next one is 4. So that is, in this case, a 9. And next one is 2. So that's a 7. So you see here, it just works out well. So next one is west, and we get now the west. And so we get 1, which was an 8. A 6, which is a 4. etc., etc. So this is how you solve this cache. So even though we didn't initially see a puzzle, the puzzle was there. It turned out to be a combination between its order and the actual hidden the attributes here. So this is just one example of how a puzzle can be hidden. I've given in previous ones, I've given other examples with underwater text, um, something that you maybe have to Google something, some more information. So lots of variation of how text can be hidden and still be a puzzle for a mystery cache. Time for another example. So this is Space Invaders. It's just a puzzle I made up for this video. Placed it in Italy. And so this is the starting coordinates. Obviously the cache is not hidden. There's no cache. This is just for video. But I'm going to save these so that I can easily recognize later on whether we're on the right track. Scrolling down, we don't find much on the cache page, only this picture. So obviously this picture is going to give us the coordinates, right? The puzzle is not well hidden in this case, but maybe there's going to be something the answer. But there's a hint right away that something is going to happen because see here 8 of these creatures, I guess the Space Invaders, and my north coordinates only 7 digits. This one has 7. Here I potentially 8 or potentially 7 if I forget the 0. So, but the fact that this one has 8 and this one has 7 suggests that something is off, right? Because if it was the other way around, 7 and 8, much more comfortable. But still, this looks like the best path forward to take a look at. So let's take a look at those creatures and see if we can find something. So I'm going to open the picture and copy it. I'm going to use a tool to further analyze this picture, the coordinates right now, and take that picture. So here we see this, and the one thing that I notice is that all these creatures seem to have like a different amount of these antennas. Maybe that has something to do with our puzzle. So let's take that assumption here, where we are going to use that. So let's just select one of them. The tool will automatically select other ones that look alike. So when I say this one has 2 antennas, so I'm going to say the 2. This one has 0 antennas. It's number 0. And notice that these numbers doesn't really match with my posted coordinates, right? And so I could give up right now and say, nah, probably antennas is wrong. This is where that don't give up comes in to play, because it may be that there is something else going on later on. Remember, the numbers also didn't match. So there's multiple things here, but don't give up means continue what you're doing and see maybe if there's something else that will help save the day, right? So I'm going to select the third one. So that's option 3. This one, oh, that didn't select that one. Let's change it a bit. Detection slightly more forgiving. Here. Select that again. Say this one is 4. Then 3, 6. This one is 5. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one of the things that makes me feel good is that every creature seemed to have a different number, right? So it wasn't that I had to use the same. It looks like that might not be a coincidence. So that looks pretty good, that we are on the right track. So this would stimulate me to go forward and say, yeah, we've got something good going. So let's write down this number, plus 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 0. Clearly, nothing related to our cache coordinates, right? It's not like reversed or something. I was maybe hoping that the east was the north and it would just swapped, but that is clearly not the case. 45, 43 is too high, 20, 12 doesn't really work. So let's just take a look at this as an individual puzzle, because that's what you often end up doing. And I mentioned looking at the usual suspects is typically a good idea for a step 2 in a puzzle or a future step see if there's something else going. There might be something else on the cache page. In this case, we have a picture. But I don't need that picture anymore right now. We've kind of completed that. So what could it be? Well, if we look at these numbers, this one had one number too many. This one looks significantly higher, 12 versus 45. So that makes me think that I may have to do with base conversion, because base conversions, I also don't see an 8 and a 9 being used here. So maybe that is what I need to do. Don't know exactly which one. Given that 8 and 9 are not used, maybe a base 8, but don't know for sure. Typically, however, you will need to go to base 10, right? We base 10, 0 to. So let's use a base converter here. Put in those numbers that I have here and say I want to go to base 10, but I don't know what I'm from. So this will just give me all the options that we have here. And so we see here the different bases. And we expected that it was probably base 8. We actually see kind of like our suspicion confirmed here, because here we see one that starts with 43 and one that starts with 1, 2, like the 12. So this looks pretty good. And so if we put that in here and then just put the proper spacing in here, then we see that we have a coordinate that looks pretty close to what we're looking for. And so we have solved the puzzle. So yeah, so even though it looked like we were completely going in the wrong direction, with more difficult puzzles, that's often the case, where they send you first into one path and then there's an additional step that you need to do, kind of get it to. So yeah, another example of where if we had given up, then we may not have solved it, but here there was just enough that the aliens all had these different numbers of antennas that made us feel good about our approach and allow us to do it. A little bit of extra effort to solve maybe the next part. Now, of course, we could have been completely wrong, and that happens quite a bit, so sometimes you just go into a path and it is not the right solution. But it's always worth to not give up on a solution if you feel some inkling that it goes the right. Let's take a look at another example. So this example is again one I made called heavy metal times 3. Placed it in South Africa this time. So let's copy this so we can recognize the coordinates for difficulty. So expect some stuff. And here we see a bunch of numbers. Well, it doesn't look great, but yeah, not sure what to do with it yet. Although, if I see numbers like this and it has some symbols in between, start thinking cipher. Right? It has a split pairs, but it seems that there's some tricks here. Good thing is that the hint points to something lyrics. Now I'm pretty good about cipher because I may have mentioned before, but if I see text and numbers, that often means that it's indexing into that text, right? So let's start take a look. Let's open up BookCipher website. This one this time. I've shown some other ones in the past. And the BookCipher all works with that you do indexes in a specific piece of text, right? And it can be many ways. It can be letter number, a word number, paragraph letter, paragraph line letter, all kinds of variations depending on how many we have. But yeah, I still need a text. Now it told me lyrics.com, so let's go there. And let's see what we find there. So website full of lyrics, that's good. Heavy metal times 3, so probably heavy metal song with heavy metal elements in it. Let's see if we can find a list of heavy metals. Right. That is a pretty long list, right? So I'm gonna copy it all across. It is not gonna be fun. So this is the part where don't give up comes in, because you may still have to do a lot of work. If you know what to do, it might still be a lot of. So let's go to lyrics.com. We have a list of heavy metals. Well, a lot of them don't look very popular, but let's start with titanium. At least know at least one song, titanium. do a search. And I find indeed several ones, but are they heavy metal? Sia doesn't really sound like heavy metal. This website can filter, so let's do that. Say only heavy metal, and we have nothing. Q. Well, I'm gonna take the next one off the list. Know what metal is, but not doesn't look very popular. Uh, right, and so on. So let's take a couple more. Nickel. Songs with nickel in it. Don't think Nickelback is heavy metal, but there's at least one. But I'm looking times 3, so I'm thinking that the band name probably needs to be metal related as well. I think of a couple. Metallica. Led Zeppelin. Led is a heavy metal. Um, Iron Maiden, of course. And there's probably going to be other ones out there. Let's just try another one. Let's see if we find anything. Yeah, no, does not turn out to be popular song things. I saw gold on the list. Gold. Do that all the time in songs. But let's see what we find here. Yep, find some. And Iron Maiden has El Dorado. Something with gold, so lead and gold. Good, but the band name doesn't have. Here. Steel. Well, yeah, there's some couple of options here, and again, this is where the don't give up comes in. Iron Maiden. Wasted years. Iron Maiden. The Hills. So, but yeah, we have to do work, right? And so we're going through here, but this list, there's 3 pages here, doesn't look good here. So let's go to the one that we're looking for here. If we go to Iron, we actually find a song Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden. 3 times iron, right? We have metal iron, heavy metal, song, title, everything is iron. So this feels pretty good. So let's take this text and go on. I'm glad it told me lyrics.com because lyrics can on different websites sometimes look different, so that may not necessarily give you the output you're looking for. So unlike even with books, there can be different prints. So if it's like a Shakespeare text, kind of hope that you have the right version of Shakespeare. So let's take a look. Let's take the first line. And we put it in here. And this is 4 parts. This one only supports one with 4 parts: paragraph, line, word, and number. So kind of the idea, right? First paragraph, first line, first word. Second letter is the letter L. So the next one is sixth. So 5, 6 would be H. And then second paragraph, first line, third word, C, what I would expect. So yeah, LHC. So this one calculated kind of like the whole thing, right? So unfortunately, this doesn't mean anything to me. So cache is in South Africa, so maybe I'm pulled here with a trick, but doesn't look like a coordinate, doesn't look like a word. Number of characters also doesn't lend itself well for a coordinate word, so something is happening here. So I could give up thinking maybe it's the wrong song, or let's try the other 2 lines as well. So I'm going to take the next one, put it in here. This one only has 3, so we have to pick one with 3. There's a variety: line, word, letter, paragraph. The other one is also paragraph. Well, I see you started with 12 and 15, so I think leaning more towards the line one. Let's take that. So line 6, 1, 4, 5, 6. First word, letter O. It's a good sign that it doesn't give us an error message, right? Save this information. And because if the numbers were wrong, so let's make up a number and let's take it nice and high. Something like that. It would tell me something like, oh, this doesn't work, right? Error 20. This is the line, but it can't find that specific word. 23. 23 lines. So the fact that it doesn't give me an error message makes me feel good that I might be on the right song. So this would encourage me to go forward, right? If I tried something and I had the wrong wrong lyrics. So then immediately this text would most likely fall apart because either a word wouldn't be long enough or letters. So the fact that it doesn't give me error messages means that I probably have the right source, just don't know what to do with the text yet. Let's take the next one as well. This one only has 2 numbers. So now again there's several variations. Line letter, line word. See here undefined, undefined, so there's some kind of error going on here. Word letter, same, all kinds of error messages here. That doesn't look good. Line letter, that one seems to work. So now have 3 pieces of text, right? You have to decode it. So let's take the whole thing. I'm gonna put it here on automatic. And so it will automatically pick like a default setting. And so now we have these 3 pieces of text, but it doesn't look like this. So we start looking usual suspects again. So let's take the rotation cipher. That's always a good one here. Try put the text in there, and we get a whole bunch of them in here. Not sure if you recognize anything. Fortunately, with a little bit of Dutch, this looks pretty good. This actually means, hooray, you got it. Okay, great. Okay, I got it, but I got this text. It's not great, right? So let's go back to our little notes. I have my notes here. Yep, great. That's what it says, but now in Dutch for Afrikaans. It's actually more Dutch, I think. So looking at it here, and we have these letters. Well, fortunately, these letters are all low in the alphabet, so that means that I probably just need to convert to numbers. Let's try that. 3, and that looks good, right? So 3, next one is 5, 1, 7, 7, and 2, 9, 5, 3, 6, 7. And we have a good coordinate, and the puzzle is solved. So yeah, so we had to go several steps. We had to take some leaps of faith that we were doing the right thing. We had to do a bunch of research. And like I said, I some shortcuts here. I knew which song was to be used. But yeah, you may have to try different songs. And if we had, for whatever reason, let's go to this website. And let's say that we picked, for whatever reason, thought this was the right song, Iron Savior, Iron Savior. Again, seems to meet the criteria, right? And paste that in. Well, this one gave me all kinds of error messages. So maybe not the right song, or maybe something else is going right. So lots of variation. So even though you're doing the right thing, puzzles can still be a lot of work, and you have to do lots of steps to get to the right thing. Doesn't matter how experienced you are, puzzle can still be hard to solve. Okay, next cache is a currently active one. So it's GeoHeist the Hideout. This is part of a series. Initial part just talks about the whole series. That this one can be solved individually. If you read the cache, you will find 3 pictures in there. This picture, which is a picture actually downtown Atlanta, an image building downtown Atlanta that has been modified. You'll find a directory like this with a bunch of text and some colors. See it, you see a correspondence between the colors here, colors over there. And then finally a little email that has some reference to one of the other puzzles in the series. But first, let's take a look at the geochecker. It's always a good idea. And we see here that we need a keyword. So this is not something that requires a coordinate, but actually a keyword. And yeah, we're looking here for the hideout location. So something in a building is what we're looking for here. So a word, not a. And that's what the text also supports. I managed to get a hold of the building. I believe they're hiding in this area. So we try to find out something about this area. So let's take a look at comparing just some of the images. We already noticed that the colors might overlap between the colors in the building, colors right here. But yeah, let's take we can start anywhere. It really doesn't matter. This puzzle. So I'm opening it twice so that I can compare two pictures next to each other. So in this case, we have an email here and we have the directory. Let's take the directory and the email first. So we start just at the bottom. It really doesn't matter where you start. It all comes out to the same. Take a little notepad and let's see if we can see something. So see here the email, welcome to the club. I know you're a fan, the restrooms are to the left. And we see some weird capitalization going on, right? Club, fan, restrooms. Probably a hint to what is important. Now, if we look at the directory, then, for example, club, fan, restrooms, we see restrooms being mentioned here as well, fan being mentioned here, and club being mentioned here. This one doesn't mention much else other than just the sentences. So maybe what we should do is take the words that are here and see what colors they make up. So because of course if we have a text, we also have the way the words are mentioned in a certain order, and we can utilize that. This mentions certain colors. We already know the colors link up. So that kind of links these two pictures, and the words kind of link these two. So let's do that. So we start with club, and club is the letter, or in this case, orange. Okay. Know you're a big fan. Take the next one. Fan is purple. Okay. Restrooms, and that restrooms would be blue. And main field level, that's like light blue or cyan. Stadium, that's the next word. Stadium. And we see the next word is gray. Executive, it's pink. We don't know yet what to do with this, right? So we're just trying to eliminate something, I guess, make the puzzle simpler, as we just mentioned before, by saying, well, this email, I think it just determines an order. Concessions. So we kind of try to replace everything by colors because we feel colors might be important. Don't know what yet. There's lots of ways that colors can be important. Yellow. Um, Stadium, executive concessions, and the last one is gift. Gifts. That's green. Okay, we're missing two words. Don't see the word upper being mentioned. That was the brown one. We also don't see food court mentioned anywhere. So that's red. Okay, that may not be relevant for this puzzle. So let's take a look at this picture, right? So I'll maximize it for a second. We see here the colors as well. Now, the real gotcha moment here is that you have to realize that every color is exactly mentioned twice. That's of key relevance in this puzzle. So that's really the aha moment that you need to have. Is that gray and gray and blue and blue, yellow and yellow, orange and orange, green. It's all mentioned twice. So, because if you see that, then if you have something that has two different locations, then you kind of have to think math, right? Because what can you do with two numbers? You can add them, you can subtract them, you can multiply them, you can divide them. There's lots of ways that you can deal with two numbers, but probably that gives me something else, because otherwise I just have patterns to draw. If you have two, it's almost always guaranteed that you have to add, subtract, delete, or divide. And this puzzle is not any different. So we see here too, there's the aha moment. We don't really know what to do, but don't really have numbers here. Like there's no numbers next to it. Yeah, we could say this is the third floor or this is the first floor. It's tricky, right? But if we have two, we really only care how they maybe relate to each other. So in this case, I'm going to focus on the difference between. So if the difference between them could be just two holes, so maybe two, or it takes three steps, 1, 2, 3. 3, or it spans 4. So the same for purple. It 0 in between them, 1 step, cover 2. Restrooms, blue, 1 in between them, takes 2 steps to get from one to the other, or they cover 3 spaces. I don't know yet what's going to be relevant. I'm going to figure that out later. Same for this one. Skip 1, 2 steps, or it covers 3. Gray, as many, 5, 6, or 7. 7. Pink is 1 in between, 2 steps, 3. Yellow, 2, oh no, 1 between, takes 2 steps, or they cover 3 spaces total. Green, 2 in between, 3 steps to get from one to the other, they cover 4. And brown, oh, no brown, no red. Must be doing something right, since these two are not mentioned. So the fact that the kind of the letter ruled those out, the building rules those out as well. So it doesn't matter where we have started. In both cases, brown and red don't seem to be relevant. We can safely those. So we have here all these numbers. No clue what to do with them yet. But we know that we need to look for a specific location, right? For location somehow. We're looking for a word. As the geocache said, keyword required. So clearly, this is not a word yet. So we have here a number and several words. We also have the email that maybe we could do something with. We have all these colors that of course are words. Yeah, so typically if you have a number and a word, you're thinking ciphers. So that's what's going on. Book ciphers, however, don't like zeros because there's no such thing as zero thing. So let's delete this. So I'm gonna take that out because we don't like zeros, so that apparently it's not the difference between two. And now we can look. Well, we can look at the third letter in orange, the third letter in purple. There's only, these are like very frequently used colors, right? So it isn't that there's weird colors used. So to make a puzzle where the words just happens to match up with common colors is pretty tricky. However, these floor numbers look pretty specific, like pretty to this puzzle. So I'm going to go focus on the floor as book cipher. So 3 CU for the fourth letter would be. Same, first letter would be an F, or the second would be an A, 2 E, the third would be an S. Same here, second letter would be an I, or the third letter would be E. Sixth letter, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 is U, or an M. Same with this. Get the third, an X, which doesn't do great, or E, like that better. And this is the second letter, it's an O. You already didn't like the S. And the third one is an F, or the fourth one is T. Well, let's try to see if it makes any words. That doesn't make any words. This one, basement. That looks like a pretty good location. And we kind of have solved this puzzle right now, because that is the answer to it. So this is how you solve that puzzle, by just reasoning through it. Of course, there's many different avenues we could have taken. We could have taken resistor codes, but you kind of have to see how do these three pictures fit together, make it one big puzzle, then you get the answer. So yeah, here are some frequent websites. Some of the websites I used in these puzzles, some new ones that I list here, some new tools that might help you, and some of the existing ones that I've shown previous episodes, right? So it's always good to know all your tools, because for pretty much everything that you do, there's a tool out. And not listed here was the lyrics.com website, kind of like a novelty website. But as music is popular, lyrics are popular, it's definitely a website to take a look at. and it's pretty powerful if you want to search some. So with that, the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you would like it, please subscribe. There's many more videos that I've planned related to mystery caches. So that way you get notified and kind of like can stay up to date on the latest things and learn, right? Don't give up. The more you know, the more you solve. So, you know, that's how it works. Also, feel free to comment if you have a question. If your question was something you saw today. If you liked something, didn't like something, feel free to comment. It won't hurt. If you have a question about a geocache, either you want me to talk about yours or you see something that you don't understand that you saw today, feel free to contact me. You can reach me as Waterfin5 on the geocaching.com website. You can also email me if you would like to do something or have something planned. I'm more than happy to assist. So I can be reached at geocaching.waterfin5@gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to talk to you and see how I can help. So with that, the end of today's video. Hopefully, the next time you see a mystery cache, will panic a little bit less. Thank you very much.